All right. Next up, by the way, awesome spork. If you ordered your swag early enough from the ETHDenver store, they sent you a spork in the mail. Has a little ETHDenver logo on it. Looking really nice. Looks like we have John Poller up next, the one and only, talking about digital employment cooperatives and the killer app. The killer app. I'm really excited. I don't know what the killer app is. You're gonna have to tell me.
Wow, I'll be happy to do that, Hudson. And yeah, buffacorn.com. Yeah, I think we're out of sporks though. So like,
oh no,
limited edition, there was 500 for the first 500 orders, and I think we're at like 700 orders or something now.
That's amazing. But yeah, check out these shirts. Check out the rest of the swag, unless they're sold out now. But check out the swag; it's good.
Swag left, so like, yeah, go check it out, grab it, because a lot of it's going to be limited edition stuff. So yeah.
All right, chat, go wild for John. Take it away.
All right, thanks. So we're here talking about the ownership economy today. This is the mini summit that we've got to discuss sort of the future of ownership and sort of the migration away from third-party owned systems, whatever. And, you know, the thing that's often not talked about, sort of talking about not necessarily having to do business things just because they're business things. We haven't really talked much about the actual ownership of your employment. So this is a topic that's really near and dear to my heart. I've spent 20 years in HR tech and employment systems, and I've become a student of game design as it relates to employment. So what I'm going to share with you is sort of a little deeper dive on sort of my perspective of things, and really kind of getting down to like, you know, how important employment is for the adoption of Web3 tech, and ultimately, you know, creating these impacts that we seek to create through all of these movements that we're building. So the question is really about, you know, the next million users. Where's it going to come from? I mean, NFTs are on fire right now. In fact, it's interesting because in 2019 at ETHDenver, we had a big NFT push, and then it sort of quieted down last year, and then it's back with a roar. Is it going to come from there? Is it DAOs? Is it enterprise? Is it going to be government identity systems? Who knows, right? Maybe. We have a little bit different thesis at Opolis. So our work has led us to believe that the real magic comes when you can get people to use cryptocurrencies and blockchain tech and Web3 primitives without them even really knowing they're doing it, by giving them a chance to opt into it through other systems that they're used to already using. And given that employment is the single common commercial thread for virtually everybody in the world who participates in the economy, why not try to do it there? So in other words, why don't we create an on-ramp Rails and a normalization and professionalization Rails for all of us that are already participating in the ecosystem, and give us a bridge? Let's build a bridge between Web 2 and Web 3 and just let people come freely by choice. So unpacking this concept a little bit about what it means to actually own your employment, let's talk about what the current situation is of employment. So you've got a highly paternalistic framework today. So it's not uncommon that you hear about employment compliance or employment risk, okay? Well, regulatory requirements create risk, and risk equals cost. And if you watch your employers and what they do when they have all these additional costs coming out them in the form of alphabet soup legislation or whatever it is, that means that controls come in and they start controlling time and structure, and this top-down mechanism. Unfortunately, the byproduct has created 70% of US workers, just as one example, although I believe this is a global problem because most of the world uses the same corporate structure for housing of employment. People are disengaged. And when you're disengaged at work, I think we all know what that means is you're not productive. And you're not being your best self. You're not expressing your unique creativity in the way that I believe you were probably designed to do. And although a meme and sort of a caricature of what employment's like, I mean, Peter Gibbons didn't exactly have this wrong. I think a lot of people do that 15 minutes of work, just enough not to get fired. And again, doing the business thing to do business thing, wearing the ties and going to the office and doing all of these things. I mean, with the pandemic and other extrinsic factors, we're migrating away from this. And this trend is very clear. Now, these statistics were taken before COVID hit. Okay, now if I had an updated chart, I would imagine this would be an accelerated view. But essentially what it's going to show here is that by 2028, this is just US statistics, but again, a global movement, we're moving back to the independent worker. We're moving back that direction. Why? Why are we doing that? Why is it that Gen Zers are already working over 50% independent contractor? They identify as non-W2 employees. They don't want the jobs of our grandparents. They don't want the World War II and Great Depression era safety and security of what jobs used to represent. So old school employment used to be just that. Like, you went to work for a company. My mother did it for 37 years, one company. She retired with a pension, and she didn't happen to lose her retirement. That was good. But like, if you look at the average work tenure now, it's less than 5 years. And more, it's because the values have shifted. But there's a huge trade-off in becoming independent in today's world. Huge. You have to take on all of the responsibilities that would normally be done for you if you worked for somebody else. So the real solution becomes when you're able to actually solve both. It's the genius of the and, not the tyranny of the or. Now, to better understand this, the employment frameworks that we have today are all designed for corporations as the customer. So not dissimilar from social media or many other free products out there. Employment is designed with the corporation as the consumer. HR tech systems, point solutions, ERP systems, data management systems, job boards, even LinkedIn. It's all designed with you as the product. So our belief is that we've got to move past this. So my personal belief is that we need better systems. We need a new game. We need a new game design. And there aren't motivations, there aren't incentives, there aren't appropriate incentives for incumbents to actually do anything about this. So we've decided to do something different. So just like the Web3 internet, we need employment frameworks that are centered on the individual. And we need to be able to arbitrage costs together in a collective form, and giving choice and optionality to people to have their employment on demand, when, from where, with whom, and how much they choose. So this satisfies both, as we talked about earlier, the safety and security components, because it essentially replicates the experience of employment, but hands the keys to the individual. Now, other components that are really important to this, we've seen in other platform economy, examples where at scale, the incentives of the legal entity will diverge from the actual users or stakeholders in the community. But we also need a benevolent legal framework. We need something that actually sustains the interests of the stakeholders, meaning the employees specifically, at scale. And then we need technology that allows individuals to signal or cast their opinions about certain topics or proposals. And stakeholders are aligned in a value creation metric. So in terms of employment, it would be seemingly logical to think that scaling value would happen through scaling total payroll volume. So the higher the amount of transactional volume, just like an exchange measures its volume in trades, an employment ecosystem would measure its volume as value in terms of total payroll processing. And when you do this, you're actually creating a positive sum game. So instead of the zero sum games or the extraction-based games or the misalignment games that exist with typical employment corporate-based systems, we actually create a symmetry of scalability and infinite value creation. So this is where I transition to a little bit of my light shill on Opolis. And I haven't done this a lot over the first 3 installments of ETHDenver, because specifically I'm here for the community, and we do it specifically to give a big tent and blank canvas to people to express their creativity. But Opolis has matured now to a place where it's really important that people understand how critical this component is to the future of the ecosystem. So what Opolis is a digital employment cooperative where independent contractors can have all of the accoutrements of typical employment and the portability, the opt-in, the choice of being independent while maintaining 100% compliance. Think about it like self-sovereign employment. So the thing that you'll notice, though, that's really back to the original, how do we get the next million users, is, when we talked about positioning the brand marketing and just how do we actually speak to our audience, we didn't actually think that it was a good idea to have a lot of crypto speak, or a lot of blockchain speak, or Web3 speak, or primitive speak, or DeFi speak in our marketing in our webpage. If you go to opolis.co, you'll notice it's right down the fairway and talking to regular people, to your next door neighbor that maybe wants to be independent, but maybe doesn't have the vehicle, or maybe they are independent and they're paying, 3 times the amount that they would normally pay for healthcare insurance and things like that. So we're targeted directly and squarely at just regular people, because our belief is that in 5 years, once the standards are set, most of this is just going to be like, people are going to use it because it works better. That's what we need to get to. They're not going to be wooed by our ability to explain consensus mechanisms or private key management or any of that. We need to really get to a place where UX and UI attract people and the overall experience attract people, and that's where we are. So to use a quick example and to illustrate how this works and what it is, here's my friend Emily. She's an independent contractor. She has been doing software development for 6 years on her own, and she absolutely loves it. But the state exchange is charging her $4,000 a year more than she would normally pay working for another company. And she spends thousands of dollars a year managing her business, not to mention the 20 revenue streams that she's trying to juggle at one time. In fact, she's got half of those are DAOs that she's earning income from. So managing this is a big headache, and it's a lot of stress on her small family with her 2 kids and her husband who don't really participate in this world. So finding Opolis allowed her to integrate all of these things into one thing. She owns her decisions around healthcare and her business. She can vertically integrate all of the different components, plus maintain compliance. So the DAOs no longer have to figure out how to build these rails for her. She's actually providing it for herself. Her benefits mirror that of exactly what she was used to experiencing it as a W-2. So now she's providing the safety and security for her family, whereas typically being independent would not be able to do that. And compliance and regulatory stuff is set it and forget it. She can choose, and she does choose, to be paid in cryptocurrencies in part based on standards that are set forth by the cooperative. And she's able to actually have all of this stuff done under the hood by the Employment Commons itself without her having to worry about it. And the best part is she's sharing in the value creation of her own consumption. The work token launching after ETHDenver actually is rewarding her for her consumption and bringing her friends. So again, aligning incentives for one single metric, which is growth of payroll in the ecosystem, through a process called payroll mining. She's receiving these blocks as the community grows, and she's actually increasing her ownership and value stake in the organization. Now, under the hood today, behind all the marketing that looks really normie friendly and maybe really boring to some people, we have a legal cooperative that's an LCA to create sustainability on behalf of the organization. We use a progressive decentralization approach, and we have Web3 authentication. So everybody who signs up actually gets an Ethereum address and doesn't even know it. And people can opt in to be paid or remit in payroll or in cryptocurrencies. We use Snapshot for voting, signaling, and Superfluid to stream tokens to folks as far as the drop goes. And we're working on automating crypto invoicing and looking at DeFi integration inside the dashboard so that you can elect any token you want in your paycheck. So what does Opolis become tomorrow? So if it's good today for compliance and paper pushing and just making sure that people are legitimized as we bridge Web 2 and Web 3, what does it become? And what it becomes is it becomes a public utility infrastructure for global employment, fluid, permissionless, borderless work. It gives them the controls of from where, with whom, and how much they'd like to work. They can actually spend more time working on what's important to them. Now, we talk a lot about DeFi Legos, we talk about money Legos, and I'm introducing a concept to you today called employment Legos. If this is really a major point of onboarding, which I believe that it is, because we can create a system that is better, faster, and cheaper, and more benevolent to the user themselves, more user-centric, then we got to think about what are the possibilities. We can lend against invoices in DeFi. We can offer people their own data, their own employee files on a portable basis. We can actually use a lot of the primitives that a lot of our other presenters have put out here today. Crypto payroll is an obvious one. Smart legal contracts, services agreements, and then Flash organizations at scale. Think about the power of having 1 million people in a digital employment cooperative. What have we also created? A market that service consumers can come to, find talent literally on demand, create an organization on the fly, and execute work in real time. And these things are just not possible in today's HR tech landscape. And I can tell you, because I've built a few of these startups that just will never be able to provide this because of the organizational framework that's in the way, which is corporate-based employment. Now, the most important thing for me, why I do this, is because I honestly think that the biggest travesty is when you think about the 70% of people who are actively disengaged in their work. To me, I can't imagine how little joy they're experiencing in the thing that they do most of their waking hours. The means to an end culture for paychecks, the paycheck culture for employment, needs to evolve. And we need to provide better systems that allow people to unlock their own creativity and align their days and their work with something that actually is meaningful to them. So having an opt-in employment system that's permissionless and borderless, but also compliant, and making sure that we're scratching both sides, scratching both backs, I guess you could say, making sure everybody's happy, is a really, really powerful thing. Because to me, if a person is living who they really were created to be, that's the joy factor. That's the thing that actually creates the pinnacle of human experience. And work is a component of that. I don't think it needs to be something that we just do begrudgingly. I love what I do. I've loved what I've done for a long time. I've been an entrepreneur for almost 20 years, so I haven't really worked for anybody in a very long time. And I'd love to be able to share that feeling and those experiences with anybody who chooses it. So how can I get involved? Well, you can get involved by joining the coalition to support the future of sovereign workers. If you go to opolis.co/ETHDenver, I'll show you the email address in just a second. As an individual, foreign or domestic to the US, or as an organization, foreign or domestic to the US, you can join the coalition to support the coalition of the self-sovereign worker. Now, there's two kinds of members, official members to the LCA cooperative. One is an employee member, which is a consuming sort of actual employee of co-employed person of the cooperative. And the second is a coalition member who participates in the referral mechanism. Now, coalition members also earn work tokens for referring members. This is the value contribution activity that we see as most valuable to the ecosystem. And our call to you today is to activate the network effect. We don't believe that a traditional sales structure is going to be something that we even want to do. It's going to be a natural emergent order through the community on behalf of the individuals who make up our community that make this a success. So thank you for your time and opportunity to present to you today. I mean, thank you for watching. We were looking at viewership statistics, and in all of the different channels and after hours things, we're going to be well over 20,000 unique viewers this week. So it's been an amazing week so far, and I can't wait to see what the projects bring tomorrow. And I see that Hudson is joining me back on the stage here. So thank you, Hudson, for being our all-powerful MC this morning. It gave me a break to actually prepare for my talk for a little bit.
Well, thank you so much for all this, John. Everyone's enjoying ETHDenver, and thank you to you and everyone else who's putting it on.
It's our pleasure to do it. So we'll see you all in the ether space. Feel free to come join us at the coalition. Also, Hudson, if you'd like. And we'll see you all in the ether space. Take care.